But I'm a culture enthusiast. I'm interested in Igbo culture. Because of that, I'll begin from a place you don't expect. Oji, Igwe, Anaringrode. Because also part of our problem is a confusion between culture and religion. And those who claim to be more interested in our culture than us have distorted both our culture and maligned and defamed our religion. When Oji came out here, the kola nut, Your Eminence, it was introduced with the usual sentence, Oji Adan Oyibo. The kola nut does not understand English. I have challenged that consistently as a scholar, not as a bishop. So I want somebody to educate me on why I am wrong in this position. My position is that it is not true that kola nut does not understand English or any other language. The question does not even arise because no Igbo man speaks to the kola nut. We use kola nut to spray and use the language which we think the addressee understands. It is not about the kola nut. It's about the person we are praying to. Ndị Igbo ji sị na okenye jide ọjị kwa ụkwara ndị mmụọ ege ntị. When we realize that those we addressed, our fathers addressed with kola nut, were their ancestors. Because in Igbo land, at least my own part of Igbo land, there was no cultus of the Supreme Being. He was regarded as being too high to be approached directly. And he was always approached through his intermediaries, the other spirits, especially the ancestors. In Nsukka area, my own domain, we say the prayer with broken kola nut. In some other areas, the prayer is said with the kola nut low before it is broken. And when Igwe Agobozo, whom I respect, this man is a scholar and a forthright thinker. He was in the Esut Governing Council with me. When he took his own piece of kola nut, and they said, Ojiga Kuseba, I said, no, it won't stop with me. It has to look for a Nike man. And he made a statement. Whose ancestors are in this land? Okudia. In my own place, breaking of kola nut is a service entrusted to the youngest male. But the prayer over kola nut is ritual, priestly ritual, entrusted to the eldest in the place. And why do we break it in Nsukka before we say the prayer? First, we break the kola nut and take that spot where the omeoji, the life is. Anyoji, and that is what you use, sign of life, to invoke life while praying to your ancestors. They are addressing the land and the ancestors. The land in which those ancestors were buried. And the ancestors buried there. The only language the people knew, and the only language those ancestors understood, that is the language in which the prayer is said. It is not because of Oji, it is because of the subject of that prayer. So, if I pray to God who understands Hebrew, Greek, Latin, Yoruba, Hausa, or Ijaw, I make a choice of the language in which I pray to him. It can't be determined by the kola nut. This is my position. But there's a caveat. When Igwe said, those whose ancestors and fathers are here, I know that as a Christian, I'm no longer praying to those ancestors. In that case, I'm no longer tied to the person whose ancestors are here. I'll tell you a story. Don't mind, I'll take up my time. But if I make this point clearly about our culture and distinguishing between culture and religion, I would have not come here in vain. Immediately after my priestly ordination, I went with my father to an office, and we visited another man who was older than my father, and the man offered kola nut. And my father asked me, now we have learned to pray over unbroken kola nut. My father asked me to say the prayer as a priest. I said the prayer and offered to break it as the youngest male in the room. My father objected. You can no longer do that service. He told me, you are now a priest. In Adaled, you are now a priest, and as a priest of the Supreme Being, you can no longer offer this service reserved to the youngest. This is the type of thought we need to do in order to understand the dynamics of our culture, bearing in mind that by its very nature, culture is dynamic. It grows as different from tradition, which is handed over from generation to generation. Tradition is the residue of culture, and both cannot be confused, because tradition, you make a choice about what you accept there and what you leave. But culture carries you along, and you just have to consciously live the culture. And I end on kola nut saying, since the kola nut ritual is a cultural ritual, and since language is the primary vehicle of any culture, and by that I mean, no human being thinks outside the languages he understands and speaks, because languages constitute the words in which our thoughts are formulated. So the primary vehicle of culture is language. So if Igbo people now say they will continue saying the prayer over Oji in Igbo, then I will understand that it is an aspect of the preservation of the cultural dynamics of kola nut, not because kola nut does not understand English. But totally just so.